ANC NEC member Dr Gwen Ramokgopa joins us now via Zoom to break down the process of branch nominations for us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Ndoro, and good evening to the viewers as well.
All right, so
thanks for the invite.
I believe that you've laid out the rules for the nomination process. In the main, what will happen now? Each branch is allowed to nominate how many people? How does it work?
There are 80 plus 5 for now in the 80 plus 5, for now in the Constitution for the officials, and actually 80 plus 6, it's 86 officials, but we are motivating that there be an additional official, but that will be resolved at conference itself. The additional official, we think that we need to strengthen the Secretary General's office with 2 deputy Secretary Generals, so that the branches would have to nominate officials as well as the 80 additional members. But if they want to nominate only 12, it's still fine. But they cannot nominate more than 80 additional. And obviously for the officials, they must indicate for what position as such. This is a very exciting process in the ANC, Peter. And you can just imagine over 3,000, almost 4,000 branches will be sitting, reviewing where we are as the African National Congress in serving the people of South Africa, how we have managed to weather the storm of COVID and all the challenges that we've had, and looking at a team of leaders that can enable the ANC to remain relevant to society and to be at the service of the people of South Africa in taking the country to the next level as such. We still have the economy to grow, poverty to reduce further than we have done, and so forth. So we really need a formidable team of men and women that have more than 10 years of experience in the ANC, in leadership position, and who have a history of service, and who understand that the historic mission of the African National Congress is to serve the people of South Africa and not to serve themselves. More of servant leadership is required, especially at this time of our country's development.
It's a huge responsibility that these branches have, because if the party does win the election, they essentially are picking the president for the entire population of the country. So at these branch meetings, what kind of guidance do they get in terms of nominating and choosing the country's leaders?
We always say that the people know their leaders. The leadership that have been with them, especially since the 54th National Conference, the leaders that have worked with them in advancing societies, in really weathering the storm. The past 5 years, really the major challenge that South Africans faced, that was a test of leadership, is the COVID pandemic. Which affected South Africa like it affected all over the world, all countries. And I think the South African leadership should be applauded and led by President Ramaphosa indeed, and working with the rest of his team in government. But also the ANC mobilized the communities to really ensure that the most vulnerable are supported, and that we also access the vaccines that have really helped to reduce the disease burden as is. The issues of economy, we know that the economy has really been one of the major challenges, but we are starting to see employment. The recent labor stats indicate that employment is increasing, albeit still at low levels, and that is why economic growth is not kicking in. And if we remember, President Ramaphosa in the SONA called for the private sector to come on board. The public sector has sustained the jobs that are there, but there's also a number of sectors in the private sector that are shedding jobs. So that's why the net effect is not felt in a positive way. So the message that the leadership that is emerging should continue with is that we need one another. As South Africans, we need to focus on reaching out to the most vulnerable. As Mayor Charlotte Maxeke said, as we rise, we must lift and leave no one behind. No one must sleep hungry, but we must also be productive. We must get manufacturing back on track. South Africa was known as a manufacturing hub, and a number of industrial sites, but also innovate. And we must also get, some social ills like GBVF also decisively tackled. But challenges ahead, and as I've indicated, the branches are able to assess their leadership. We have through the eye of the middle document that also guides them in terms of what type of leadership the ANC and the country needs. We are still at the service of the country, and we believe that we will be able to take the country to the next level, even beyond the December conference.
All right. Dr. Ramokgopa, if you can help us also understand the process. The branches will come up with their nominations. Does it then have to be endorsed by the region, by the province, before it can be taken to NASREC? Or what happens? How do we get to the final names? And does a person like you, for example, if people nominate you, how many nominations must you get before you get on the final list?
First and foremost, the branches do nominate. We have established an electoral committee which is led by the erstwhile President Motlanthe, which electoral committee will send observers. Observers have already been trained, but the regions and the provinces and also national can also send observers. The observers are not to interfere, but to observe that the procedures, including that it's a secret ballot, that those are observed. And then the second step is that the outcome will be deposited nationally, and there will be a consolidation of the various nominations at the provincial level. The nominations have to be done, as I indicated, to fit the number of the positions available, 80 additional, plus 6 in the top 6 as officials. And there will just be consolidation of those nominations at the provincial level. And beyond that, every branch will then elect the various delegates, and the guideline is that if the first delegate is a male, the alternative must be female, so that even at the provincial level, also finally at the national level, there could also be gender parity, which is a constitutional imperative. as well to ensure that there is gender parity. It is important for branches to also own up in terms of our own policies of having a non-racial and non-sexist society. And we are really excited that the ANC has a very strong track record of in this area of gender parity. And that is why in our constitution that has been factored in. So it is a process that will then end up at the electoral committee will collate and all the nominations that come from the various branches and provinces and present these at the national conference. And those that have reached a threshold will be announced as candidates. And I think we'll take it from there. And the last point is the voting at conference itself. There is also a provision for additional names from the floor, and that also has to reach a threshold from the certain threshold from the floor. So it is a very intensely democratic process, which we believe that's what has sustained the ANC to be even 110 years, just beyond 110 years to date.
Dr. Ramokgopa, I'm sure we'll have many conversations as this process continues to unfold, but thanks very much indeed for giving us some insights this evening. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank
and
you.
Thanks to the viewers.
All right, that's ANC NEC member Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa explaining to us some of the technicalities and processes of branch nominations. The ANC, the party is faithful. I've started that process and a number of names are starting to come through already. We'll be keeping you up to date with that as that process unfolds.